Now that's the Mika Hakkinen 99 winning car that you see there. Mika was here last year, or at Velocity last year, got to drive it and also advise on the other drivers like Pato who were out. Now, Pato may be gone, but not forgotten. Boy, did he hoon round in that 2008 yesterday. I mean, I'm sure he was trying to break the lap record.
It looked like he was. It looked like he was having a good time out there.
Chad, what are your thoughts? Memories of these fantastic cars?
Yeah, I mean, even when Jeff did the first one here in 2019, and they brought the Mercedes team, that was fantastic too. I mean, I got to bring my little nephew over to watching those guys prep the car over in the drivers' school garages, and we were sitting there gazing at him so long and longingly that one of the McLaren guys Mercedes guys pulled us over the ropes to come look at the car, and my nephew Nick just hasn't forgotten it.
I'll bet.
And go ahead. That year they also had the vintage car go out at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
It was amazing.
Yeah, I remember being there. Esteban Gutierrez was the driver. Yep. He's still very much involved in Mercedes, and it was just great to see and to have that access too, to be able to get that close. But there's nothing better than that sound. I long for it. I'm going to Vegas this week, and I'm just not going to hear that sound, unfortunately.
19,000, right?
Yeah, 19,000 RPM. Tanner Faust was at the wheel yesterday. I think it's David Malukas now at the wheel this time, and putting it through its paces. He's a new IndyCar driver, and I would have thought this will change his orientation on what he wants to do in the future. Pato, of course, going to be doing the Abu Dhabi test. After the season's over, they always do a Monday and Tuesday new driver stroke whoever you want to put in your car test, and Pato's done that a couple of times. He won it on a bet, and now he's winning it on merit, because he is absolutely showing he is capable more than driving a Formula One car.
It's really fun to watch that crossover between IndyCar and Formula One as well, because you always watch both sides of the sport, and you wonder, these are the best in the world. So if they're paired up against one another, how would that matchup take place? And they're a little bit different to drive, obviously. The IndyCar has a little bit less downforce, a little bit less technology, but a lot of power, and they're both super competitive. Just look at the lap times.
Yeah, no question.
They're driving on that speedy dry like it's not even there, too.
Well, yeah, speedy dry. That was the word I was looking. I couldn't remember the word when they were putting it down, but that's what they call it. And I can't remember what it's made up of. One of you might know, but I was saying back in the day it used to be sort of limestone dust from limestone
shavings.
But speedy dry now has got all the chemicals in there to dry it as quickly as possible, and it actually creates grip. Weirdly enough, that is Tony Kanaan at the wheel, not David Malukas.
I didn't recognize that helmet. That's interesting.
Yeah, me neither. So what we've got, I think, out there, let me just check. We've got David Malukas out there replacing Pato. We've got Stefan Johansson and Tony Kanaan. So Stefan Johansson, a familiar name, and certainly a familiar man to IndyCar. There he is in the MP4 2B03. And great to have Stefan here. Still very much involved in IndyCar racing, of course, as a manager now.
Yeah, motorsports of all kind. He has a Ferrari Challenge team as well that he helps manage. And I know he likes wine. He's a big foodie, and I'm wondering what's going through his mind, because he competed in Formula One around this era, but he wasn't in McLaren. So I wonder what he's.
That's a good point.
I wonder he's thinking, man, I was in the wrong car back then.
Or he's like, God, can I redo my whole career? No kidding. And you make a good point. It's very rare that you actually get somebody from period, if it were. We had Mika here driving his championship-winning car, and you know how amazing that was, because I talked to Mika that weekend. He said that McLaren brought out his old engineers, and he hadn't seen him since he won the championship.
Wow.
Because he wanted the guys, Zach wanted the guys that worked on the car. Many of them don't work at McLaren anymore or have retired. And he said, come out to California, fire that baby up, Mika's coming. And it was just wonderful.
Amazing.
That's fantastic. So when you, at any level, but especially the premier level, you develop such a relationship and rapport with everyone, from the guy that puts the tire on the car to the engineer that makes the engine and the transmission work, the ECU guy, the shock guy. They have a lot of engineers. You develop such a cool relationship with them. Like, Chad's probably had something similar. Chad has a really awesome racing background, but I remember there's engineers that I worked with 25 years ago that I still shoot them a text, hey, happy birthday. So for Mika, that had to be quite special.
Yeah, for me, it's all family. We just got my uncle, my dad, my uncle's son-in-law. Just fantastic, though. But yeah, I can't imagine doing it without those guys. So it's so neat that Zach brought Mika's guys out for him.
Yeah, it's a lovely, and that's the sort of story you hear. Now, of course, tag on the side means it's Porsche V6 turbo power. So another interesting era. Obviously, we obviously talk a lot about Prost Senna, and that kind of kind of dominated the headlines. But it was an amazing period also for Porsche coming into Formula One, and they thought about it again, and now Audi are coming back, and obviously that was a dominant time also for McLaren, and not only the competition and those two great drivers of their time, without doubt the two best drivers of that era. As the
look at that
James Hunt car just gets out of the way, that's Rob Garofal, who's a handy driver himself. He's a test driver for McLaren full-time, but also a European Le Mans champion multiple times. And look at Zach.
That's cool.
Look at him getting his Instagram going. Nice on. Good on you, Zach. Good to see you acting like a good old 13-year-old like the rest of us.
So, Chad, have you driven that era Formula One car?
No, I have not.
I've been blessed enough to actually race that era, and you're in the car, and I think they said yesterday during the F1 broadcast, it feels like the movies you see that are fast-forwarded.
Yes.
And that's in the older car. And you saw how fast the newer car went by him. That was pretty shocking.
So tell me, in those era period cars, because like I said, you are watching and very much part of the historic guys, and there is one of those period cars, 77, I think, though. That's the James Hunt car, if I think I'm right. What is the hardest thing to get your head around?
Everything. Starting with the safety. I mean, you're getting into a car you don't know, and you trust the shop that preps it. All the guys that prep these Formula One, Phil Riley, Intrepid, these guys are awesome. Louis, JNL, I mean, I drive Louis' cars, and I don't question a single thing that goes into the car, but you're still looking at this going, you got to slide this around, and there's these little roll bars, and my feet are in front of the front tires. Okay, as long as the seatbelts work, I guess I'll go do it. But,
yeah.
And then the car itself, on those tires, are actually quite fun to drive. The vintage racing tire I like way better than a modern racing tire. You can move the car around, it has a good feel to it, and it's actually quite fun to drive. You lose a little bit in the brake zones because it's not a radial, but what you gain in the corner is a big grin.
Now, the older car that you're seeing there, just coming into view now, the number 4, originally driven by Bruce McLaren himself and John Surtees, Joe Bonnier, and Carlos Reutemann. Not a bad enough. If that was my race team, that wouldn't be bad. But all had a hand in driving that car back in the day, back in 1969. And that high wing, David Malukas at the wheel, I don't know whether it was a triumph or a tragedy, but it was an interesting one, and I never really gave
one of the first times they ever tried it on that car.
Yeah, and of course, you've got to remember that it wasn't designed to create airflow over the car. It was designed purely to put more grip on the rear wheels, and of course, it did its job. And the air, of course, completely avoided the car. Right. So it was only catching air and pushing it down, or pushing the car down to the ground, creating that mechanical grip, which is what you want.
Now, were those uprights on the suspension components?
Yeah, they're mounted up above the rear uprights. Yeah. So it does load the suspension like a Chaparral Owl did it first, but neat stuff.
That is Charles Nürburg watching on, who is a handy driver himself and has done a lot of historic Formula One racing in his time. Also got a land speed record. He's a regular at Historics. I'm trying to grab him in here at some point this weekend and hear from his weekend, but he's a great character from Dallas, Texas.
Charles is great. I spent some time over in Spa with him last year doing the 6 hours at Spa. He's actually quite fast, and so interesting to talk to. And his livery or quiver, I like surfing, quiver of cars is super interesting from Formula One. And then I just literally got off track in the Alpha, and he asked me, "Hey, how's that Alpha to drive?" I'm like, "You have an Alpha that you still race, but you have like a quiver of Formula One cars." It's quite interesting.
Oh yeah, he's an interesting cat. I talked to Karun Chandok about a lovely story. He of course tests and drives historic Williams now, as well as being a Formula One commentator for Sky Sports. And he said he was asked to come to Silverstone and shake down an old vintage Williams that was for sale. And so he was out there, and he saw this truck pull up and another car pull out, and he suddenly found himself on track with another vintage car, and he couldn't quite understand why that was it. And the buyer of the car that he was asked to shake down was Charles Nurberg, but he hadn't driven Silverstone, so he brought out another car because he didn't want to embarrass himself when he took hands of his new car.
Right. He's quite competitive.
Oh, yeah.
Malukas is flying in that old car.
Yes, he is.
He's moving.
Well, we're celebrating the history, the 60-year history of McLaren motorsport and autosport, I may add, because we've obviously got a host of their cars here. And we're going to have Amanda McLaren herself, the daughter of Bruce, here in the booth later today, which is a very special moment, I'm sure, for the family to celebrate this weekend of 60 years of the McLaren name, and long may it continue. They launched a new car yesterday. That's how much the McLaren name is still very much vibrant. They have taken second place in several of the races this year, and they've taken a sprint car win in the hands of Oscar Piastri, which was much to the chagrin of Lando Norris, who is out this afternoon because obviously he's yet to win a Grand Prix. But I'm putting my money on him for Vegas. Why not?
Why not?
It would suit him nicely. Now, there's that Mika Hakkinen car from 1999 with the
Kanan's getting after it too. I mean,
yeah.
He's every lap looks more and more on edge.
He was talking about the fact that he drove the Senna car yesterday, the Prost Senna car, and he said it was just a dream come true. He grew up, wishing to do something like that, and of course, Ayrton Senna, his idol.
Well, it's interesting, the rivalry. I can see why it would be his idol. He was mine, and I'm from America. But it's interesting how a rivalry actually increases the exposure of the sport. So the Prost-Senna rivalry is...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no question. And I think that's what makes modern Formula One. I mean, to hear Lando, throw a line out about Lewis Hamilton. He got out of Lewis Hamilton's 2008 car and said, yeah, he's an old man, but he's still pretty fast. And, laying down, somebody will pick that headline up and put it out in Vegas, and, it'll get a grin here or there, maybe across at Mercedes. But, that's what it's all about. So then, in he comes, and I'm sure he's broken the helmet because his grin it's probably... You can tell he is just that was the international sign for, oh my God, that was fun.
On my mom's side, I'm Finnish, and so Mika was also one of my fans.
Course.
I was a big fan of his. I mean, one of my idols for sure. He watching him push himself, and then he came back from that injury in Adelaide.
Yes.
And I actually ran a company, and if you knew me, you'd say no, you didn't, but I did. And I used his. He has a YouTube. Mika has a YouTube thing on overcoming that, coming back from it. And I showed that from all my employees as a motivator. It's a really cool video on YouTube.
Well, Charles Nurberg, Zach Brown, all crooning in to hear what Tony Kanaan, who will be as lucid as you like, as though he's just done the 500 after that run. I hope they get in there and get a word with him, because he will be loving that. You can tell. I know enough about watching Tony's body language over the years to know he is like a kid in a candy store right now, loving every minute of this. We've got to get a selfie. That's the modern way. And, we got to get everybody in, of course. Yeah, what a wonderful moment. And it's not often you see drivers getting giddy. Right. It's not often you see Zach Brown with his phone out taking a picture.
And it's not their first day. They've been doing this for a day or two, right?
Yep.
So it's fun to watch.
Yeah, I've got a good story for. We're going to see if we can get an interview with him in a minute. But while we've got 2 seconds, Mika Hakkinen, met him in Formula 3. One of my first outings when I was just starting out in my career. I was a little cub reporter, and I got to put the mic in front of the winner of the race at the Formula 3 race, and his teammate was Alan McNish at the time, funnily enough. And I said, oh, Mika, well done, good race. I said, what's your ambition in Formula 1? I mean, you're just starting out, there's another Scandinavian coming up. He goes, I'm going to be world champion. And I said, well, that's pretty confident. He goes, well, no, it's not confident. This is my plan. I was like, all right. And I knew from there on in.
Yeah, look at these guys. They're just stoked. He's trying to tell them how everything was just unreal. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's a special moment. And actually, I know Tony's retired now, but I think for current racing drivers to get a chance of doing something different that isn't the norm, it just pricks their interest again. Well, talking of getting interested, Taylor's right there, and she's going to shuffle in there and get an interview, I'm sure. Down to you, Taylor.
Thanks, Johnny. That's right. I'm down here, and the excitement is palpable. You can feel it, and I can feel it radiating off you. Tell me about that ride.
Unbelievable. I hope the fans enjoy as much as I did. I mean, I was trying as hard as I could to actually show them something. You know, you want to drive it quick, but this car is unbelievable. I mean, the F1 cars are so fast. I had the pleasure to actually drive some of them in the past, but driving Mika's car here at Velocity with McLaren, I mean, it was very special. So hopefully the fans loved it. If you guys, I said that yesterday, this is the best event for me. Yesterday was definitely the best day of my career as a driver. You know, I want to thank the fans for coming. Without you guys, we wouldn't be here, but what's happening here today, this weekend, hopefully Jeff and his group will be able to reciprocate that for, this is the 4th year, 15 more, and I told him I'll be here every year. I don't care where I'm driving, I just want to be here.
I love it, and I was standing right there as that car was flying by me. You can actually feel it. I don't know what you feel or hear in the car, but the fans could probably feel what I felt as well.
Well, I tried to drive as closest to the wall as possible so you guys could feel what I felt. So.
All right, well, we've got to keep the racing going. Thank you so much, Tony Kanaan. Let's head back for even more.